Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new entitled people stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, Entitled Woman Gets the Boot from Doctor's Office. I work at a podiatrist's office as an X-ray tech. Most of our patients are elderly and are near and dear to my heart. The kind of people who are like second grandparents to you, whose feet you happen to be very acquainted with. Then there's patients like this woman, we'll call her Lynn. Lynn is that kind of woman that will be sickly sweet to your face and then complain like you killed her puppy to your superiors. We would dread looking at the schedule to see her name on the daily patient appointment list. Some of my coworkers have flat out refused to take her back to a patient room and get vital signs, prep her room, etc. Everyone at my office has a "that which Lynn did this to me" story. It's practically a rite of passage. At this point, she had been coming to our office for about 3 years. In my own personal experience with her, she acted kind to my face but slightly entitled. She complained about something I did to my doctor, and TBH it was so mundane neither I nor the doctor she complained to, who owns our practice, took it seriously. The doctor even flat out said, "Oh, Lynn complained about you, Delta, but she complains about everyone." When she didn't get the proper reaction she expected from the doctor, again, doctor thought it was mundane and said she would speak to me about this problem. She then tried to call a day or so later and speak to our office manager. My coworker picked up the phone and spoke to her. Lynn had complained to the doctor that owned the practice, so she couldn't exactly take it to anyone higher up in our office food chain. She had the nerve to say, "I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but I think it needs to be addressed. Lady, you went out of your way twice to complain about me. You wanted me to get in trouble." On to the main event. Lynn finally gets her comeuppance. I was on maternity leave when this happened, so this is second-hand from my coworker who isn't a Redditor. Lynn came into the office in apparently a very foul mood, more so than usual anyway. One of our nurses called Lynn back to a room 3 minutes after her scheduled appointment time. Lynn proceeded to contradict all of this nurse's questions, information she had about the appointment out of spite. Stuff like, "Nurse 1, Lynn, your blood pressure is 142/90. Lynn, that's not right. My blood pressure is usually 140/80. Nurse 1, being an older woman and over years of Lynn's BS, said, "Okay then." Then when the doctor came in, Lynn started demanding that, "You have to give me an injection, my feet hurt and you're going to fix it now." The doctor's policy is that these injections, which can help with certain types of foot pain, are a once in every 3 months deal, and if something stronger is needed, they'll look at physical therapy so they don't just throw pain pills at you. Lynn had had her injection about 1 week ago, and constantly refused physical therapy despite having no valid, medical reason to not go. She was very obese and very lazy. She just wanted a solution now and didn't want to correct things in her life that would easily stop the problem for good, instead of temporarily. Then Lynn demanded new diabetic shoes. Now normally, we do offer this service with one nurse, let's call her Nurse 2, that has some sort of certification that only she has to take the measurements for these shoes. However, Lynn had burned that bridge a long time ago because she had repeatedly treated Nurse 2 like garbage and called her a witch. Nurse 2 had long ago refused to measure her ever again. The doctor, knowing this, told Lynn that she would send orders for new diabetic shoes to another company we worked with in the area that does this sort of thing. But Lynn didn't want shoes from them. She wanted them from US. The doctor, not wanting to throw Nurse 2 under the bus, simply told her we weren't offering diabetic shoes at this time from our office. Lynn kept getting angrier but had no choice but accept defeat that she wasn't getting what she wanted, schedule her next appointment and pay her copay. She went to our receptionist's window and concluded her business and headed out to the parking lot. She had paid with a credit card, and our receptionist asked her if she wanted her receipt, to which she replied, "Ugh, no, why would I want that?" She then proceeds to stomp on out to her car. 3 minutes later, she calls our receptionist from the parking lot. "Lynn, angry, you need to print me off a receipt for our transaction today. Why wasn't I given one?" Receptionist, "Ma'am, I offered it to you before you left. I can send it to you in the mail or you can pick it up from our office at your convenience." "Lynn, you did not offer me my receipt. I'm in the parking lot, you need to bring it out to me now." Ma'am, you can come back inside and get it, or I can send it to you in the mail. I can't leave my desk as I'm the only receptionist in the office today. Lynn, you have to bring it out to me now. My legs hurt, and I can't walk in there. This was crap. She literally just walked out of the building just fine and had no leg injuries. At this point, Lynn just starts yelling about how she doesn't deserve to be treated like this, and how someone needs to bring her the receipt now, yada yada yada. It's so loud that Nurse 2 can hear Lynn yelling on the phone from several feet away. Nurse 2 asks if it's Lynn on the phone, and the receptionist confirms it is. Nurse 2 asks for the phone and says she'll handle this. Nurse 2, hello, this is Nurse 2, how can I help you? Lynn yelling, you need to bring me my receipt now. My legs hurt and you need to bring it now. I should have been offered it in the first place when I checked out. This is ridiculous. You're all incompetent. Bring it to me now. Nurse 2, ma'am, your legs seem to be working just fine when you walked out of the office. Now you can either come in and get your paper yourself, or we can mail it to you. Lynn starts yelling incoherently, repeatedly calling Nurse 2 a witch, etc. Nurse 2, you have a nice day ma'am, hangs up. Nurse 2 told me how great it felt to just call Lynn out on her BS. I felt the satisfaction from the story when Nurse 2 told me about it a couple weeks later when I returned from maternity leave. But it gets better. Apparently, the doctor that was working that day, we have two, and they rotate days they work and surgery days, had overheard Lynn's yelling on the phone and was not having the way Lynn treated the entire staff. She told our other doctor, the one that owns the practice, and they agreed that they would dismiss her from the practice. So, the rest of my workdays are looking a lot more Lynn less every day I go in, and it's a wonderful life. The next one is titled, Karen outs herself as office food thief. I work IT at a small non-profit. We have a kitchen, staff room and supply free coffee, tea, milk, sugar etc. During the pandemic all staff were working from home, but, for the past few weeks, some staff have been coming back gradually, most for just 1 to 2 days a week, including myself and, unfortunately, Karen. Now Karen and I have had many run-ins over the years and suffice to say we don't get along. I don't tolerate her BS. A week or so after being back, Karen sends a condescending email to the office manager, CCing all staff. In she says that, while she accepts that the office kitchen had not been stocked while everyone was on lockdown, she is appalled that there is no bread, bagels, yogurts etc. for staff that have returned. Replies, adding CCing all staff, Karen, as a courtesy to staff, we provide free coffee, tea, milk and sugar, all of which have been stocked. We have never proved free bread, bagels, yogurts or other food. However, staff do keep personal food items in the refrigerator. The next one is titled, My entitled sister wants to steal our deceased grandma's apartment out from under me, so the guy she's cheating on her husband with can move in instead, and she can see him easier. Anyways, hold on to your hats and get ready for a train wreck fellas. My sister, mid-30s, is probably the worst case of entitled I've ever seen. She's always the victim, can do no wrong, and the world owes her for her imaginary suffering. This time however, she's reached a new duckling level. She's recently confessed to our mum and I that she's started dating someone behind her husband's back, and to be honest, her husband is also a ginormous dirtbag, but just leave the guy okay. I don't think anyone deserves to be cheated on, and even though he totally ducking sucks, an affair doesn't constitute as some kind of just punishment. It's messy, gross, and not worth it. Save everyone the extra heartache. Now, our grandma passed away at the end of August. It hasn't even been a month since she passed, and since she was terminally ill, we did have time to discuss some things and make arrangements for others. She lived in an apartment that's attached to our mom's house, and we had talked about me moving into it after grandma passed, and everyone thought it was a good idea because my grandma had things like no-slip railings, kitchen tools, gadgets for arthritic hands, etc., and I am also disabled and could benefit from the same equipment. Come to find out my dipshit sister thinks it'd be a cool idea to have her marital affair move into our mom's property instead, so she can use our mum as some kind of cover for her affair, and I am absolutely repulsed and livid. We were all just starting to let my sister come around again, because after grandma passed, she seemed like it had really affected her and she was really turning over a new leaf, but it's all because she wants her boyfriend to move in. I don't think anyone is going to fly with the idea. I just can't believe that she even thought it would be a viable option and something that she could even suggest to us. Why does she just assume that we'll help her cheat on her husband? I want no part of it. I will not be an accomplice. Also, her justification for suggesting he move in is because Op doesn't seem to be in much of a rush to get up there, like yeah? I found our grandma, deceased, less than a month ago. Sorry I haven't been in a hurry to erase grandma from her home. Sorry I haven't been sorting through all of her belongings and getting them ready to be rehomed or donated. I wish I could keep every trace of her, and the fact that I have to get rid of anything at all hurts, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I haven't done it yet, but maybe try having a little ducking empathy. I've decided that I'm kicking my sister out of my life again. Each time I think she's capable of changing, she shows that she's still the same horrible, selfish person, and I'm done falling for the charade. Have fun with the inevitable divorce proceedings. Good luck explaining all this bullshit to your kids too. People in the comments said, your sister is a twat waffle, but you know that, so I'm going to talk to you about your grandma. I know things are so hard right now. I just wanted to share this with you. Having lost a loved one, I will tell you that the grief is like an ocean. At first, the storm rages, the waves are so high that they swamp everything, as you cling to the bits of a life raft you may have. Eventually the seas begin to calm. You find more days of calm and less of storms, but sometimes a wave comes and knocks you on your ass. Let it. This is the part that reminds you of the love you shared and the life you treasured. You are not alone. Lean on those who loved your nana and who love you. The next one is titled, Update, my entitled sister wants to steal our deceased grandma's apartment out from under me, so the guy she's cheating on her husband with can move in instead, and she can see him easier. There were so many good points made in my last thread that my mum and I hadn't really thought of, such as my sister potentially getting kicked out and needing somewhere to stay, waiting until after I've moved to tell her husband about the affair, ways to tell him, etc., and all of these things have been taken into consideration moving forward. My family and I have begun going through grandma's belongings, and it's definitely been bittersweet, because it hurts to see her things go and her existence dissipate even more, but we have also found so many family photos and keepsakes and overall good memories. I even found a box that belonged to my great-grandpa, and it had his pocket watch and a locket with a photo of my great-grandma in it. My sister did manage to bully her way into the apartment for a few hours so she could pick out what keepsakes she wanted, but joke's on her because I hid all the things grandma wouldn't have wanted her to take. She walked away with not much more than a decorative bowl. She is starting to drop the narrative that her boyfriend can move into the apartment now that she sees that we are serious about me being the new tenant, but she did make some little comments that let me know that it's not forgotten. She can plot all she wants though, because we're installing a security system and changing locks, so if she thinks she can sneak in, or try to get her hands on anything else, she is sadly mistaken. My mum and I have decided that after I'm all moved into the apartment, we are going to tell her husband the truth about the affair and offer our support to him and the kids, and do whatever we can to help, whether it's emotional support, babysitting, whatever we can to make things easier when my sister's infidelity is brought to light. My sister might hate us for it, but at the end of the day, she is the victim of her own actions, and I am tired of sparing her feelings so she can continue to treat everyone around her like absolute trash, and my mum agrees that enough is enough, and if we never hold her accountable for what she does, she'll continue to push the limits of what she can get away with. Some people suggested going the anonymous route with tipping her husband off, and while I thought that might have been a possibility, ultimately, I feel like that could cause some inner turmoil for him later. If he didn't know his wife was cheating, then who did, and just how many other people knew? Was it something she kept out in the open when he wasn't around, and nobody respected him enough to tell him personally? I don't want him to end up potentially torturing himself through speculation. Anyways, I think that's all there is to tell you guys for now. I just wanted to let you all know where some things have ended up, where they're headed, and thank you for the outpouring of support. It was much needed and very appreciated. I am glad that I won't have to hold on to such a horrible, ugly secret for much longer, and her husband can know the truth, and we will do what we can to help with the healing process. Also, if you manage to read both of these novellas I've left about the situation, thank you for even taking the time. Love you all. The next one is titled, My Stepmom Invites Herself Over to See My 2-week-old daughter. I posted this in ITA, and someone sent me a message saying I should post this here because my stepmom is entitled. So, some backstory, I only had one parent in my life, as my father was an abusive father within the 6 weeks of my life. My mother gained full custody and my father had extremely supervised visits, like a social worker had to watch me with him. So, like a daycare lady, he never made an appointment to see me. My mother told me what happened, when she deemed ready. So, about 15/16. When I turned 20, a lady who wasn't more than 3 years older than me contacts me. I mistaken her as person ID seen in school. I couldn't be more wrong. Shortly after, I found out she was engaged with my FSTHER, and had a son with my father, big age difference. She was 23, my father 57. I got into contact with my father. I never met him, as he lived in New Hampshire while I live in Iowa. We never got close. A month later, my father passed IDK how. Shortly his fiancée, I'll call her stepmom, even though she isn't really. Don't wanna waste a bunch of words, lost custody of my half-brother and put him up for adoption due to drug overdose. I was asked if I would adopt him, as he was my half-brother. I declined because I didn't have the space or money at the time. Around this time, I met my now husband. I am now 25, my husband 26, I had just given birth to our daughter 3 weeks ago now. So right now, there's 4 people at the house. My mother, 56, husband, our new baby, and I. My mother is with us due to virus, she's high risk, plus she wants to be around to help with my daughter. When my daughter was 2 weeks old, I posted some photos of me, my husband, my mother and our daughter together. It took us some time with the photos, but we figured it out. I posted them on Facebook. About an hour later, I get a comment from Stepmom to check my messages. I check and hear what they basically said: "Hey op, I'm gonna be coming over tomorrow to see my granddaughter. I'm so excited to meet her. I'll stay in the guest room." I should note she still lives in New Hampshire and I still live in Iowa. I text back, "Sorry can't. My baby and my mother are high risk and I'm still learning a routine with my daughter. My mother is also using the guest bedroom." I didn't get a response after this. Next morning, there's a knock at the door. I thought it could be a package I ordered, so I go answer it. When I open, I was pissed. "Hey op. I'm here to see my granddaughter." My stepmom tries to open the door, but I push back. "I told you couldn't come. There isn't room for you and there are high-risk people here. Please leave." "But I have a right to see my grandbaby. Your father would want me to meet her. I'm her family." She tries to give me puppy eyes. "Stepmom, I'm not really wanting to deal with this right now. Leave." I shut the door. All seems well until yesterday. She came over again, and this time, since I was busy with the baby, my husband handled her and threatened her with calling the police. She leaves after throwing a fit. Last night, when my baby is asleep, I got a text from her. "Why didn't you let me see my granddaughter? I'm her grandma. I came all this way to see her and you deny me seeing her. I just wanted to hold her. Your father would have wanted me to see her." I had responded to this. "Stepmom, you're not my child's grandma. Only my mother and my husband's mother is the grandma. You weren't married to my father, only engaged. I don't trust you with her either, as I have no clue if you're still doing drugs or recovering. I don't trust you either, as you lost custody of my half-brother. I don't care what my father would want, as he was barely in my life, 3 months max in my life if you include when I was born. Virus is a thing right now, and I have multiple people who are high risk. I told you, you couldn't come over, but you did anyway." I shut off my phone after this to get the little sleep I can get. Sometime this morning, after I rocked and fed my daughter, I got a text from Stepmom, asking for money at the hotel she stayed at. I hit decline and she sent it again, saying I owe her since she couldn't weigh at my place. I declined again and blocked her. IDK if she's gonna show up again, but if she does, my husband will call police. The next one is titled, "Be roommates with my son. And give him your games and food." Hey people of Reddit, this isn't my story, but it's my cousin's. My cousins and their roommate told me this story last January. I thought it was funny, so I thought that I'd share. By the way, cousin and his roommate are both 16 and my little cousin is 12. An entitled mum demanded that her 12-year-old first-year son be allowed to live in the room with my cousins and their roommate. Meet everybody. OC equals older cousin, LC equals little cousin, room equals roommate, M equals entitled mum, EK equals entitled kid, SG equals security guard, EKRM equals entitled kid's roommate. The setting: my cousins go to a very elite private all-boys school grade 6 to 12 in the New England region of the United States. So, it's not uncommon to encounter an entitled parent and kid here or there. Now let me state that my cousins are not entitled. They apply for financial aid and have campus jobs to afford the $60K a year tuition. Now my older cousin is the student body president of the school. Because of this, the president gets a room that is 1,200 square feet, has a fully functional kitchen, and bathroom. The room also had a large living space, balcony, and office. The other rooms just have 2 beds, 2 closets, 1 desk, and a small window there around 150 square feet. Because my little cousin is related to older cousin, he was allowed to live in the room versus the standard dorms. Cousin's roommate was also the student body treasurer, so the dean allowed him to live in the room too, because he was my cousin's friend. With 3 guys living together, there was a surplus of video games and junk food, just guys being guys. With the new semester starting, student body officers have to help with orientation, helping the parents get the first-year students settled in. Because little cousin was already settled in, he was just playing games on the PS4 with the door open. Cue entitled mum and kid. M. Nice at first, excuse me? LC, yes? M. I am looking for my son's dorm and I can't find it. Can you help me? LC, hey, I'm new here myself so I don't know much. My brother is responsible for helping first years, so let me call him. Entitled mother and her son wait for about 25 minutes for older cousin to arrive. So, LC was playing games with EK on the PS4 eating junk food and showed them around the room. Older cousin arrives. OC, hey, I'm OC, you must being the mum trying to find her son's dorm? M, now rude, yes, I've been waiting for someone to help me. Older cousin first disregards her tone as orientation day is hard. Older cousin goes on his phone with the info that the mum gives and directs her. Apparently entitled kid only lives down the hallway to the left. Entitled mum leaves with entitled kid and his luggage and leave. Entitled kid says in the gosh awful voice as he's leaving, I want to play more games. Entitled mum says, you can later. Older cousin has this geez look on his face, closes the door and plays on the PS4 with little cousin. 10 minutes later there are loud bangs on the door. Older cousin sees who it is. It's entitled mum and her brat have returned with his luggage. M, I need your help now. Her brat runs to the PS4, OC, what seems to be the problem? Entitled mother starts whining, M, my son's room is small. It's not like this one. Who do we talk to about this? OC, I'm sorry if you're unsatisfied with your living situation, you'll have to talk to a counselor about his situation, and nobody has a room like this one because I'm the president. The entitled kid starts rummaging through games. EK, do you have Fortnite? OC, hey. Put that down. M, don't talk to my son that way. Besides, my son need more living space, do something. At this time entitled kid is still rummaging. Then little cousin then pushes him to the side and locks the game cabinet and he starts screaming. Roommate was also returning to the room with his lunch. EK, I wanna play games. LC, this is our room, and you can't use my things if I don't want you to. EK, screams, IWANNAAAA. Room, what's going on? Entitled mother interrupts, M, these boys won't help me find a room like this one for my son. Room, oh, that's impossible, this is the only room that is like this one. Besides, this room is only for the president. M, condescendingly, then how come you're here? Roommate explains, room, little cousin is related to older cousin so he can stay here. I'm in student government with older cousin and allows me to live here. OC, yeah, I told her that. Entitled mother then says to older cousin and roommate, M, you should let my son live here. Entitled kid overhears his mum. He now thinks that he lives in the room. He goes to the fridge and tries to get a soda. Little cousin blocks him and says, LC, you are not our guest, nor do you live here, don't touch our food. EK, foo. This is my room too. And you have to share. OC then says to get her kid out because he is a nuisance and bothering my brother. M, no, older cousin and roommate are not having it. They ask her politely, yet firmly, to leave. Entitled mother walks in and proceeds to unpack her son's luggage. Entitled kid is also having a fit because little cousin isn't letting entitled kid have any food. EK, mum. He won't let me have some donuts. M, don't worry, mommy will help after I unpack you. OC and room, firmly, your son isn't living here. Yes, he is. My son is an angel. You should be glad to be friends with him. Oh see, I am not interested in living or being friends with your son. Leave now. Entitled mum ignores older cousin and continues to unpack with her entitled kid still screaming, I want donuts. He then screams at little cousin, I want to play your games. Little cousin says, no. The kid then starts screaming high-pitched. Older cousin, little cousin, and roommate have had enough of this charade and they proceed to drag them out and throw his luggage in the hallway and lock the door. Entitled mum and son continue to bang and howl. Entitled mum promises that she'll get her son back in, so she leaves. At this time friends were coming over and someone accidentally let entitled kid in the room. People confused ask who he is. EK says I'm entitled kid. Live here. Entitled kid then start demanding to use the PS4. Older cousin sees him and kicks him out again. With him shouting, I want to stay, his mum then returns with a security guard. These boys kicked my son out of his room. Do something. SG, lady, I know for a fact that your son doesn't live here. He needs to stay here, this room is much better than the other ones. Security guard then asks if the mum is bothering them. Everybody says yes. He says, I'll take care of the mum, and asks cousins to take care of the kid. Entitled kid is dragged out again. EK sad face, shouts, my daddy will foo up for this. The mum was escorted of the campus grounds. Older cousin and roommate forcibly moved entitled kid into his room for him. Little cousin ended up becoming friends with entitled kid's roommate as the months have passed. Entitled kid has been so bratty and annoying that entitled kid's roommate has had sleepovers with little cousin almost every night. Because of this, entitled kid packs an overnight bag and almost always follows his roommate and demands to let in. I was told it goes down like this. EK, let me in roomie, you can't have a sleepover without me. LC, go away, we are never letting you in. EK, I want to see my roomie, he'll vouch for me. You can't play games or have a sleepover without me. Entitled kid's roommate comes out and put his ice cream on the table. EKRM, I stay here 4 to 5 days a week because I need a break from you. Please go away. EK, OMG. Traitor. So much for loyalty. The least you can do is share that ice cream. Roommates get up and closes the door. EK, OMG. Let me in. I'm not playing. My cousins, roommate and entitled kid's roommate turn the volume on the TV louder and tune out his pleas and crying. They later woke to him sleeping at the front of the door at 6 a.m. He stayed there for 10 hours. I know it was a long story, so thanks for sticking though it all. If you want an update about entitled kid, I'll ask my cousins to share more stories, which I'm sure they have plenty of.